Parents' worst nightmare caught on camera. A woman says this video shows a nurse her son with cerebral palsy.
What you doing? What you doing?
This is a small part of what Dawn Caldwell captured on video of the nurse's interaction with her son Craig.
July 7th, 2019. Dawn Caldwell and her husband planted cameras in the house after noticing that their usually cheerful son, Craig, who had severe cerebral palsy, suddenly started showing signs of distress. Little did they know that the nurse they hired to care for their son was the cause, until they caught it on camera. Here are 7 evil nurses caught on camera.
Texas City police and state officials are investigating after a family says caretakers at a nursing home abused their loved one, and they caught it on camera.
Texas City nursing home employees caught on camera abusing an elderly man are now facing felony charges.
Nursing homes are meant to be safe places where the elderly receive care and support. In Texas City, however, disturbing footage revealed the opposite. What unfolded on camera inside Solidago Health and Rehabilitation in October 2022 shocked both a family and the community after it showed an elderly resident being violently abused by staff members trusted with his care. Sunday, October 2nd, 2022, 87-year-old Cornelio Salinas, who had only one leg, was left bruised and hospitalized after an incident that was first reported as an accident. The nursing home contacted his relatives and claimed he had fallen from his bed.
We seen the bruising around his eyes and he was in a neck brace. So we went back on the ring camera and seen what had happened.
But when the family reviewed the footage from a camera they had installed in his room, Salinas had not simply fallen. Instead, 2 employees attacked him while he was on the floor, hitting, kicking, and dragging him back into his bed. The video captured everything in detail. Once they placed him back, one worker pulled the curtain around the bed, deliberately hiding the rest of the abuse from the camera. His grandson later explained that the employees remained behind that curtain for 15 to 20 minutes, and when it was pulled open again, Salinas was back on the floor. Salinas had been telling his family for years that he was mistreated inside the facility, but without evidence, his complaints had been dismissed. Out of concern, his relatives had installed a camera outside his room about a year or 2 earlier. The surveillance finally gave them proof. When they reviewed the footage after receiving the call that he was in the hospital, they saw bruising on his face and noticed he had been placed in a neck brace. What they saw on the recording confirmed his claims. The family broke down in tears, realizing that their loved one had endured abuse from people who were supposed to be his caregivers. The footage not only showed violence, but also exposed how staff try to conceal their actions. The deliberate act of drawing the curtain before continuing the abuse left the family questioning how often such incidents had happened behind closed curtains, and how many other residents might have faced similar treatment. Salinas' relatives expressed anger and frustration, saying they wanted justice, charges against the employees, and for the facility itself to be shut down. As soon as the video surfaced, Solidago Health and Rehabilitation announced that it had suspended the employees identified as Lisa Cooper and Casey Johnson while launching an internal investigation. Within days, they were terminated for violating company policies. In public statements, the facility said it had no tolerance for behavior that endangered residents and insisted that the health and safety of patients remained its top priority. The nursing home emphasized that it reported all violations to the proper authorities and was cooperating with investigations. Monday, October 3rd, 2022, Salinas was still in the hospital recovering from the incident. His family made clear that he would not be returning to Solidago Health and Rehabilitation and began working to transfer him to another nursing home, determined to place him somewhere safer. Salinas' relatives believe that if not for their decision to set up surveillance, the truth might never have been known. As a result, the family stressed that they did not only want the nurses involved to be fired. Rather, they wanted legal action to ensure those responsible were held accountable in court. October 7th, 2022, the 2 nurses are now facing felony charges of abuse and injury to the elderly. Their bonds were each set at $100,000 as the investigation continued.
A nurse roughly picking up Nico, slamming him face first back into the bassinet.
I don't know, it just broke me. I didn't know what to do.
The nurse, identified as Amanda Burke, was fired, and now prosecutors say she has been charged with endangering the welfare of a child.
February 6, 2023, a disturbing incident took place inside the neonatal intensive care unit at Good Samaritan University Hospital in West Islip, Long Island. A boy named Nico was under medical care for antibiotics when his father, Fidel Sinclair, decided to check on him through the NICU window. What he witnessed and recorded on video became the center of a criminal case against one of the hospital's nurses. While standing outside the room, Sinclair noticed that the curtains around his child's bed were not fully drawn. He began filming with his cell phone. The footage showed nurse Amanda Burke, then 29 years old, approaching the baby's bassinet. She picked him up, abruptly flipped him over, and slammed him face down into the bassinet. The act was sudden, forceful, and alarming. Nico's mother, Consuelo Saravia, confronted the nurse immediately after seeing the video and accused her of slamming the boy. Burke responded by denying any intent to harm and apologized only if the parents believed she had mishandled the baby. The parents reported the incident to other hospital staff, and within hours, Burke was removed from duty and fired from her position. Catholic Health, the organization running the hospital, issued a statement that the nurse had been terminated and the Department of Health was notified. The hospital stressed that the safety of its patients was its highest priority. Meanwhile, Suffolk County Police began investigating through its special victim section, treating the matter as a potential case of child endangerment. The case gained wide attention when the video became public. For the parents, the sight of their newborn being handled so violently was devastating. They later explained that if not for the father filming at that exact moment, the act may have continued without anyone noticing, potentially putting not only their son but also other babies at risk. The family described being shaken and unable to sleep as they stayed awake to monitor subsequent nurses who handled Nico after what they saw on camera.
I told her, I'm like, I don't want you to touch my child. You just slammed him. And then she was like, oh, no, if you think I mishandled him or anything, I'm sorry.
April 13th, 2023, 2 months after the incident, Amanda Burke was arrested and formally charged with endangering the welfare of a child, a Class A misdemeanor under New York law. Prosecutors explained that she had been entrusted with the care of the hospital's most vulnerable patients, but instead was seen violently handling a boy. She was then ordered to appear in court for arraignment scheduled on May 2nd. The Suffolk County District Attorney's Office also notified the New York State Education Department's Office of Professional Discipline, so her actions could be reviewed. At that time, however, her nursing license was not suspended. The arrest was followed by a strong public reaction. Many viewed the act caught on video as dangerous and unacceptable, while her defense attorney argued that Burke was an experienced and compassionate nurse who had never endangered a patient. Her lawyer stated that the baby was never harmed, never placed in danger, and that what was seen in the video was a routine repositioning that was misunderstood. They claimed that while the movement may have looked harsh, Nico was not injured, did not cry, and was later medically cleared. However, as the case prepared to go to trial, it faced a major turning point. On March 25th, 2024, more than a year after the incident, prosecutors dropped the charges against Amanda Burke. The Suffolk County District Attorney's Office explained in court that, although the video was disturbing, expert review concluded that her actions were not likely to have caused injury to the infant. Also, since the evidence could not prove criminal negligence beyond a reasonable doubt, the misdemeanor charge of endangering the welfare of a child was dismissed. The decision came as a relief to Burke, who had lived under public scrutiny since the video surfaced. She described the case as a nightmare, saying she was harassed, feared for her family's safety, and worried for her young daughter. She insisted she never endangered the newborn. Her attorney said that at most, her action might be considered negligent handling, but not a crime. Despite being fired by Good Samaritan Hospital, Burke's nursing license remained intact, and she continued working as a registered nurse at other facilities. For Nico's family, the outcome was deeply upsetting. His grandmother said they were disturbed by the decision to clear Burke and expressed outrage that she was still employed as a caregiver, despite what the video had shown. They had wanted full accountability, not only for their child, but to ensure no other infant was treated in the same way. The family also believed the footage spoke for itself and maintained that their baby had been mishandled.
Yeah, I was just watching some very interesting video footage from your work.
What are you talking about?
Mind if I search you?
No.
Where did these come from?
Does that matter? We both know where it comes from.
You often steal from your job and where you work?
June 30th, 2025, body camera footage revealed the shocking arrest of a nurse, known simply as Jessica, who was accused of stealing from dying patients under her care. Jessica worked at a nursing home where several vulnerable patients were nearing the end of their lives. Instead of providing comfort and dignity, Jessica used her position to take valuables in cash, properties, and multiple credit cards. These items were discovered on her during her arrest. The arrest happened after investigators reviewed surveillance from the nursing home, which captured Jessica searching through a patient's belongings while they were critically ill. Patients too weak to resist or unaware of what was happening were easy targets. She was also seen removing a Rolex watch from the unresponsive man. Jessica treated the matter as if it would not be missed because his family rarely visited. This reasoning came to light during her arrest when she told officers she believed her actions were justified because patients were basically dead and their belongings would not be missed. The body camera footage shows officers confronting Jessica as she left work. When asked about the stolen property, she initially denied wrongdoing but was pressed to empty her pockets. Officers recovered the Rolex, cash of between $500 and $600, and credit cards that matched reports from the nursing home. During the exchange, Jessica displayed little remorse, insisting that patients had no family to care about their belongings. Officers challenged her reasoning, pointing out that heirlooms like the Rolex could have been meant for family members or passed down to children. Her responses showed a lack of understanding of the harm caused, instead focusing on her personal needs and struggles. Despite the surveillance video and recovered items, Jessica was defensive and repeatedly asked if she could leave. She also questioned whether a warrant was required for the search. Nevertheless, officers placed her in handcuffs.
Is that right?
I'm gonna lose my job.
You already lost your job. We have you on video stealing all of this evidence.
It was at this point that Jessica became emotional and revealed that she had been stealing for nearly a year. She explained that her thefts began when she relapsed into drug use and claimed the stolen items were used to support herself and her children. Jessica also said she had a son at home, which led officers to contact her ex-husband to pick up the child, since she was going to jail. Interestingly, her ex-husband not only agreed to collect the child, but he also indicated that he would immediately pursue full custody through legal channels. This development only added to the consequences Jessica faced, as she risked losing her parental rights in addition to her career and freedom. The arrest also revealed further details about her work life. Jessica claimed that she had been mistreated and underpaid at work. However, the officers made it clear that that does not lessen the severity of the crimes. The footage also documented her attempts to negotiate with officers, asking them to reconsider the arrest, and even claiming that what she did could be seen as a favor since patients had no visitors. Such statements only reinforced the perception of her disregard for patients' dignity and property. In the end, Jessica was formally taken into custody, with officers making it clear that the evidence would be presented in court. The case, however, remains under investigation as police work to identify every patient affected and trace the full extent of Jessica's actions. While she has admitted to stealing for over a year, investigators are still determining how many patients were targeted and the total value of property taken. Families of patients are also being notified, and some may pursue civil actions against both Jessica and the nursing home for failing to prevent the thefts.
A parent's worst nightmare caught on camera. A woman says this video shows a nurse using her son with cerebral palsy.
What you doing? What you doing?
This is a small part of what Dawn Caldwell captured on video of the nurse's interaction with her son Craig.
In 2019, a mother from Sparta, Tennessee, hired nurse Milana Smith to care for her son, who had special needs. Little did she know that Smith was not who she claimed to be until she came across a shocking video on Facebook. The case of Tennessee nurse Milana Smith first drew attention when Dawn Caldwell reported that her 20-year-old son, Craig, with cerebral palsy, had been abused in his own home. Her son, who was nonverbal and wheelchair-bound, relied completely on caregivers for his daily needs. According to Caldwell, Craig was usually cheerful and responsive, but after Smith began working in the home in May 2019, his behavior changed noticeably. He began crying out, hitting the tray on his wheelchair, and showing signs of distress that his mother could not explain. July 7, 2019, Dawn and her husband decided to leave the house for a few hours. Before leaving, they had installed hidden cameras to monitor what might be happening while their son was left with the nurse. While on their way back, Dawn pulled up the live feed from her phone and pressed record. What she captured on video shocked her. The footage showed Smith kicking Craig's foot, slapping him, poking him in the face, and shaking him violently as he sat in his chair. At one point, the nurse sat watching television while roughly flipping pages of a book in front of him, treating him more like a nuisance than a patient who required care. The images made it clear that the nurse tasked with protecting and supporting a vulnerable young man was instead tormenting him.
What I seen out here as far as her taunting, tormenting him, that was enough for me.
Dawn immediately rushed home and confronted Smith, ordering her to leave the house. Once Smith was gone, Dawn contacted the Jackson County Sheriff's Office to report the abuse. Along with law enforcement, she also notified Adult Protective Services and the Tennessee Board of Nursing so that an official investigation could begin. The case quickly moved forward, and investigators reviewed the video evidence. The district attorney's office charged Milana Smith with Class B misdemeanor assault. If she complied, the charges would be cleared from her record. Despite the disturbing nature of the video, Smith was not sentenced to jail and was allowed to continue holding a nursing license, which was later renewed even after the incident was reported. The fact that she was able to keep her license caused additional outrage, especially after other families came forward. November 13, 2019, another mother from Sparta, Tennessee, later learned that Smith had been her own son's nurse. She was sitting in her living room with Smith and her son, who also had developmental delays, when she came across the viral video of the abuse. Recognizing Smith's name, she read part of the article aloud, only for the nurse to snatch the phone from her hands and then quickly leave the house. The second mother said her son had not been harmed, but seeing what happened to Caldwell's child left her fearful and angry that Smith had been allowed to work in homes despite the prior abuse being documented on camera. The outcome of the case left families demanding stronger safeguards. While Caldwell hoped for justice for her son and pushed for the case to be taken seriously, the Sparta mother stated she would do everything possible to prevent Smith from entering another unsuspecting family's home. Families who learned about the case also voiced concern that someone caught on video mistreating a disabled patient was able to continue working as a nurse with access to vulnerable individuals. This was because since Craig could not speak or defend himself, it meant that the abuse could have continued undetected had his mother not trusted her instincts and set up surveillance. However, investigators claimed that although the abuse captured on video had been reported to multiple agencies, no additional punishment can be given to Nurse Smith under the law unless she breaks the rules again.
Oh, don't do that!
We were looking to put her in somewhere that could be, she could be looked after, and, professionally and be in a safe environment. In fact, it turned out to be the complete opposite.
January 2021, Ann King, an 88-year-old retired nurse living with dementia, was admitted to Reigate Grange, a luxury care home in Surrey operated by Signature Senior Living. The home charged residents around $8,000 a month, making it one of the most expensive facilities in the country. Signature Senior Living, owned by a large Canadian pension fund, operates more than 30 facilities across England and is known for its premium services. Ann King's family expected her to receive quality care, But what followed was a disturbing sequence of abuse and neglect that was later uncovered through secret recordings. In the months following her admission, her children, Richard Last and Claire Miller, began to notice troubling signs that their mother was not being properly cared for. Growing increasingly suspicious, Richard installed a hidden camera on her bedside table in the autumn of 2021 to monitor her treatment by staff. The camera remained in place through her final months at Reigate Grange and captured shocking footage that revealed repeated abuse and mistreatment. The footage showed staff members taunting, mocking, and swearing at Ann King when she was visibly confused and frightened. On multiple occasions, she was roughly handled, causing her to cry out in distress. At one point, she was left lying on the floor for almost 50 minutes before staff attempted to assist her. In another incident, a male care worker crouched down to her level when she asked, and instead of reassuring her, he cruelly responded. The abuse extended beyond verbal cruelty. A cleaner assaulted Ann by striking her with a rag that had been used to clean a toilet while she was lying in her bed. The same worker threatened to dump a rubbish bin on her head and made lewd and indecent gestures close to her face. Other staff were also seen flickering light switches deliberately to confuse her and watching passively as she struggled in distress. The long list of abusive behavior was continuous and left Ann frightened and vulnerable in the place where she was supposed to be safe.
I broke. I totally broke because obviously it's full sound, it's full picture. I could hear Mum screaming, and it broke me.
Although hours of recordings showed clear mistreatment, the authorities took little action at first. The Crown Prosecution Service argued there was not enough evidence to pursue charges, leaving Ann King's family shocked. They had expected the disturbing footage to be more than sufficient to hold staff accountable. However, all Surrey police could do was issue the cleaner who assaulted her with only a community resolution, which is a low-level, out-of-court penalty. In March 2022, Richard Last and Claire Miller removed their mother from Reigate Grange. However, King died at home in October 2022, just months after leaving Reigate Grange. While her death was ruled out as natural, her children believe that the abuse and neglect she endured in the care home played a major role in her rapid decline. September 22, 2023, nearly a year after her death, the Care Quality Commission announced a criminal investigation into Reigate Grange. The inquiry was meant to determine if the home and its managers failed to provide safe care and whether unqualified or unsuitable staff were employed in breach of regulations. Also, as an immediate response to the case, the home's manager at the time was immediately reassigned to another signature facility. The facility also admitted the behavior was reprehensible and confirmed that the staff captured in the recordings were no longer employed. In addition to this, the company stated it had worked closely with both the police and the CQC since the case came to light. As a part of its cooperation, Signature Senior Living introduced a new system giving families of dementia patients the option to install monitoring cameras in private rooms, with footage reviewed independently and made available to families on request. The company also advocated for a national register of care workers to prevent individuals involved in abuse from working again in the sector. This strategy was deemed necessary since it was soon discovered that the case of Ann King's abuse was not an isolated incident. An ITV News investigation found more than 1,000 abuse or neglect complaints were logged in care homes nationwide in the previous year, but only about 1% led to criminal charges. Campaigners have since demanded better supervision and for safety monitoring to become compulsory, especially for residents unable to report mistreatment themselves. However, no one has been prosecuted for the abuse caught on film at Reigate Grange, despite the ongoing investigation.
New video now from inside the Coweta County Jail, where a nurse has been arrested for sneaking drugs into the facility.
Before working at the Coweta County Jail, Shanika LaChantre Roberts lived in Georgia, where she grew up and later trained to become a licensed practical nurse. By the time she was hired at the jail, Roberts had been a nurse for several years and was considered reliable. She went on to work in the facility for 3 years, building relationships with both staff and inmates, until her career came to a sudden end after a surveillance video exposed her actions. May 26, 2022, cameras inside the Coweta County Jail captured a subtle but incriminating exchange between Roberts and an inmate at the counter. Investigators, already tipped about possible smuggling activity, watched closely as the inmate leaned forward, reached into Roberts' pocket, and retrieved something. He then slipped it down the front of his orange jail jumpsuit, and the object could be seen sliding all the way down the inside of his pants leg. Deputies immediately searched the inmate's cell and pod area. The search uncovered a wide range of contraband that confirmed suspicions of drug smuggling. Among the items found were marijuana, tobacco, gambling paraphernalia, and even a handmade shank. The findings showed that the exchange on video was not a one-time act, but part of a larger smuggling operation inside the facility. June 2, 2022, Roberts was arrested and charged with possession of marijuana, with intent to distribute and crossing the guard line with contraband. Investigators warned that additional charges could follow as the case developed. For Roberts, who had once been trusted with the health of inmates, the arrest ended her career and tied her to a growing criminal investigation. The case quickly expanded. On June 10, 2022, deputies announced that 6 more people had been arrested in connection with the smuggling scheme. Those taken into custody included both inmates and individuals outside the jail. Among them were Antonio Carter, Raphael Kirkland, Rashad Houston, and Hunter McDonald, all of whom were already serving time. Another inmate, Kenneth Fears, was identified as the man seen in the video with Roberts. Not long after, the arrest revealed a network that went beyond a single nurse and 1 inmate. Authorities said the group used cell phones and possibly other means to coordinate the smuggling of drugs and contraband into the jail. Investigators also arrested 35-year-old Raynita Leonard, who played a role in coordinating the operation from outside. Leonard was charged with conspiracy to cross guard lines with contraband, conspiracy to possess marijuana with intent to distribute, and unlawful use of a telecommunications device to commit a crime. Following the development, deputies locked down the pod where the inmate's cell was located and brought in K-9 units to complete a thorough search. The sweep turned up additional bags of drugs, tobacco, methamphetamine, fentanyl, and cigarettes, along with more weapons. Each item tied the smuggling operation back to Roberts and the inmates she had worked with. Investigator Toby Nix explained smuggling in correctional facilities is always treated as a felony offense. Anything illegal outside of jail remains illegal inside, and bringing in drugs or other contraband directly threatens the safety of inmates and staff. For Kenneth Fears, the consequences were immediate. He and several others identified in the smuggling ring now faced new charges, adding years of legal trouble to their existing sentences. Roberts, on the other hand, still remains charged with felony drug offenses. However, while the initial charges related only to marijuana, the discovery of methamphetamine and fentanyl during the cell search suggests that she could face further charges in the future.
Home health nurse in Punta Gorda accused of stealing medication from the patient she was hired and trusted to help.
December 2016, Deanna Barbata, a 70-year-old woman in Punta Gorda, Florida, noticed that her recently filled prescription of lorazepam was missing far more pills than it should have been. She told detectives that she had used only 12 pills since it was filled, but the bottle had 36 fewer pills than expected. At the time, the only people with access to the home were her son and the home health nurse, who visited several times a week. That nurse was Jessica Brown. Jessica Brown was a 39-year-old licensed home health aide employed by Synergy Home Care, a Venice-based service that provided in-home caregivers. She was hired to help Barbata care for her husband, who suffered from dementia. At first, Brown appeared to provide the assistance the family needed, but suspicions grew when the missing pills could not be explained. Detectives were contacted, and with Barbata's permission, they installed surveillance equipment in the kitchen near the cabinet where medications were stored. January 7, 2017, the cameras recorded what was happening. The footage showed Brown opening a cabinet, removing the prescription pill bottle, and then slipping it into her pocket. From another angle, she was seen sliding something into her clothing before returning the container to the cabinet as if nothing had happened. Afterwards, she moved around casually, even pausing to adjust items on the counter before walking away with her drink in hand. The act was quiet and careful, but it was now captured in detail on camera. When Brown left the home that day, Barbada checked the bottle and discovered 13 more pills missing. Detectives already monitoring the situation moved quickly. Police pulled Brown over after she left the house. During the stop, she was found with 7 of the stolen pills in her possession. She also admitted that she had taken 6 more while still inside the patient's home. This meant all 13 missing pills had been accounted for, directly tying Brown to the theft. The arrest was immediate. Brown was charged with grand theft of a controlled substance and taken to the Charlotte County Jail. She later posted bond and was released, but the case against her continued. Brown also confessed during questioning that she had stolen pills from the home on previous occasions, which explained the original missing 36 pills. Barbada was left shaken. She had relied on Brown to assist in caring for her husband, who required constant attention. Instead, the caregiver had taken advantage of the access given to her. The surveillance footage in this case not only proved theft, but also provided the only way to secure an arrest. Without it, the missing pills might have gone unexplained, and the thefts could have continued unnoticed. Not long after her arrest, Synergy Home Care, the company that employed Brown, announced that she was no longer with them. While they declined to provide further comment on the matter, other agencies encouraged families to install surveillance cameras to protect their loved ones and ensure caregivers are acting responsibly.
People do prey on them because of the fact that I think that they really do think the best of people many times.
January 13, 2017, news of Brown's arrest had spread widely. Reports showed her mugshot alongside details of the surveillance footage and the charges filed against her. In the end, Brown faced the loss of her job, public exposure of her actions, and criminal charges that could follow her for years.